I would want with me if I was stranded on a deserted island, because quite literally I could read these however many times and I would never, ever, ever, ever get sick of them. And I have reread all of these at least once, maybe even 6 times in the case of a couple of them. So, books that I deem rereadable are my comfort reads. It's like rewatching The Vampire Diaries 87 times. It just still hits the same and it never gets old. That's how these books feel to me. There are a lot of books that I've rated really highly, even like 6-star reads, that I would never really consider rereading because I don't feel like I have to. I feel like I've experienced that story once. It wasn't fast-paced enough to like grip me to make me want to reread it. These are the books that I go back and I'm learning something new every single time I pick them up, or they're just like, you just can't help but reading them again because they're that good. I'm not putting any limits on myself for this video because I don't want to. So first up, we're gonna go Throne of Glass. This is my whole personality. I will accept 0 criticism. I'm bringing the whole series. If that's all I can bring, that's fine. I don't need anything else. If you've ever spoken to me or seen a single one of my videos, you know that this is literally like I eat, breathe, and die Throne of Glass. In a very similar vein, needing no explanation, is A Court of Mist and Fury. This is one of my favorite books of all time and aggressively rereadable. This is the blueprint for fantasy enemies to lovers for me. Okay? Next up, we have the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. This book, I call it a book, it's technically 5 in 1. Life-changing. I have been searching aggressively for anything that will elicit the same feelings this book gave me because, oh my god, this is essentially a revenge serial unaliver named Lana Myers, who, in my opinion, is my second favorite character of all time next to Aelin Galathinius from Throne of Glass. She is on a revenge hunt, let's say, and the FBI profiler for my Criminal Minds girlies, who's assigned to her case, falls in love with her. Obviously not knowing who she is. And then the entire thing just folds out and you find out what types of horrors were committed against her and what drove her to become the baddie that she is, essentially. I have never rooted for somebody that kills other people so strongly as I did in this book. It was so good. Next up, we have Binding 13 and Saving 6. I chose these two out of the Boys of Tommen series because these are the first ones for each couple. Like, this is the first one about Johnny and Shannon, and this is the first one about Joey and Aoife. And these were both kind of before it got into, like, the really heavy stuff that the second books in their, like, respective duos did. Redeeming 6 was a lot deeper than Saving 6, and Keeping 13 was a lot, like, more heavy than Binding 13, in my opinion. The shock factor of reading these books for the first time and watching these two couples fall in love with each other in such different ways, unbeatable. I could read these so many times. This one is like a who did this to you damsel in distress, let me knock out anybody who even looks at you the wrong way from, like, Johnny's perspective to Shannon. This one is essentially if the roles were reversed. Aoife, the girlfriend, wants to do that for Joey. The dynamics are unbeatable. Unbeatable. Next up, we have Star-Crossed by Josephine Angelini. This is a YA Greek mythology-rooted trilogy. This was my entire life in high school. Look at how well-loved this book is. I think I've read this like 6 times. I was obsessed. Essentially, the main players from the Trojan War are reincarnated because it's like a curse. But they're teenagers and they live in, like, Nantucket. It sounds really funky, but I promise you, it is so addicting and so good, and I would never get sick of reading these, ever. Ever. It's like star-crossed lovers in, like, Greek mythology, but, like, modern day, and they have superpowers. What do you mean? Say what you want about this book, but I'm bringing it. If I'm deserted on an island, you bet that I will read this 700 times. Like, I already read it 2, and it came out less than a year ago, so